The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus said to his disciples, "The Son of Man must suffer greatly and be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, and the scribes, and be killed, and on the third day be raised." Then he said to all, "If anyone wishes to come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. For whoever wishes to save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life for my sake will save it. What profit is there for one to gain the whole world and yet lose or forfeit his soul?" The Gospel of the Lord. Today I have set before you life and prosperity, death and doom. This is a very famous passage of the Old Testament. It's from the book of Deuteronomy. The book of Deuteronomy was Moses' basically his last speech to the Israelites before he died, when the people were going to enter into the Promised Land. And as he summarized all of God's laws and commandments, that was the phrase he said: "I have set before you life and prosperity, death and doom. I have set before you life and death, the blessing, the curse. Choose life." And that will mean life for you. St. John Paul II, in the 1990s, he published an encyclical called The Gospel of Life, in which he coined the two famous terms, the culture of life and the culture of death. I think many of us, when we hear the culture of life, or at least the average Catholic, when they hear the culture of life, they think it's just about abortion and euthanasia. And of course, that is the case. Abortion and euthanasia are huge issues. But the culture of life is more than just about abortion and euthanasia. It's about a culture which appreciates the very dignity of all human life. Last week we were reading through the book of Genesis, and we saw the great abundance of God's life. That God was so abundant in himself that day after day at the beginning of creation, more and more things were created by him, overflowing with life, pouring his very life upon the world, and an ultra abundance of creatures that he brought forth, culminating with humanity itself. Human beings, the culmination of all creation. In our age, we have in various ways rejected this God of life. We've rejected his commandments. We've rejected his ways. We have put our trust in other things and other institutions. And what has come from that rejection of God in our modern age? Utter destruction, isolation, sadness. The 20th century was the bloodiest century, probably of all time. It's the age in which we had more martyrs in the church. It's the 20th century which gave birth to things like concentration camps and slave labor camps and abortion mills and pornography and every other terrible and evil institution. So many of those have come about because of our modern culture's rejection of God. And from that rejection has come death. Death in the fullest sense of the word. Physical death, but also spiritual death. The word that God gives to us today is the same that Moses gave to the people of Israel. "I have set before you life and prosperity. Choose life. But if you go astray, if you adore and serve other gods, you will certainly perish. You will certainly be cursed. You will receive death." This is something that is overlooked. And I love this about Christianity, that even though in our modern age, people tend to think that God prohibits our human flourishing. They tend to think that he prohibits our happiness. That somehow if we do what God and the church asks of us, that we are going to be unhappy. And yet Jesus, one of my favorite verses in the whole Bible, John 10:10, Jesus promised us, he said, I have come that you might have life and have it to the full. That is the vision of Christianity. The vision of life to the full. A vision that embraces all human life and all its dignity. It's a vision that rejects empty and false promises of freedom that is merely a part of the culture of death. So today we pray for a greater appreciation for the culture of life and an end to the culture of death in all of its various manifestations.